All right, welcome everybody to the August meeting of the Western North Carolina Linux Users Group. We do not have a set meeting for today unless somebody has just hacked together something at the last minute. Um, so I'm guessing that's a no. So let's just go around the room and see what everyone has been up to. Rusty, what have you been up to?
Oh, I've been up to brush cutting and lawn mowing and uh, clean up the mess of that I'm all just regathering all my tools in my shop after doing some remodel of a house. Um, but the most interesting thing for the last week was I've just been accumulating a long list of chats with Google Gemini, and I just am so impressed by the combination of at least uh, logic and intelligence and available facts in things that are, of course, not necessarily controversial or subjective in the way that politics is, but just in getting technical issues solved. Just having the 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 way Gemini behaves, it's like the professor that you like to have that is available to listen to your problem, dissect it, repeat it back to you, and connect it to other known problem solver, sequences, and and then basically to go along for the ride and give you unlimited amount of time to listen to you and uh, it, I just am so impressed. I mean, it really makes you realize that you've got this companion. If you elect to go down any technical rabbit hole, you can at least get started on the journey with this artificial intelligence. In the past week, I've had this problem with a low memory that happens using all the various browsers, Vivaldi, et cetera, and Brave. When my machine, when the 4 gigabyte memory gets down to the available memory hits 200 uh, megabytes, you're potentially one step in trouble where you're going to freeze up your machine. And so I asked Gemini, well, what can be done about this? Is there an application or something that can watch this memory and at least keep me informed, so that the the classic scenario is that you're web browsing and you're getting lower and lower in memory, and your focus of attention is on the browser, and you're not watching memory. So I'd be going back and forth to a console. In Kubuntu, I'd be going back and forth to a console and looking at my memory. But I said, isn't there a way that this can be reported to me? So Gemini said, uh, uh, well, here is a program. He just volunteered a program to create a pop-up. Um, and so I said, well, I need more than a pop-up if this is possible. um, uh, I would like to have the focus of the when my memory goes below 200 megabytes, I'd like the focus to go to a TTY terminal where I can immediately execute a command to kill at least the most recent process of browser, and each process is a new tab. So it's the most recent tab that destroys your final memory and freezes up the desktop. And so Google Gemini just delivered a proposed program to run in Bash that would change the focus to that third console from the second console, and I basically set up the I didn't even type a character in. I just pasted the Bash script, and some other details. We determined there were permissions issues that Gemini figured out we gave the script a life running at a very high priority, which means a -20 setting in the nice command. So basically we had anyway, the way it works, it's great. You're browsing, you're not paying attention to anything, your memory's getting lower and lower, and boom, suddenly your browser is missing, and you've been transported to this terminal, and there I can unfreeze the machine because it has such a high priority setting that the operating system is keeping it alive, while the terminal with its mouse and its windows is frozen. You can't do a thing to recover. So all I can say is that it's a treat to have that available without having to bother, without having to find your professor wherever your professor is, who's willing to listen to you and help you out.
That does sound like a pretty good hack. I do have some questions. Do you have swap space configured on this machine? And is it, a meaningful amount to create because when Linux machines run out of memory, they get really upset. They do not behave well.
I actually have more swap space set. There is a swap partition. Is that what you mean?
Right. Yeah. Do you have a swap partition, and is it being used?
As far as I know, it's being used. When this happens, K-swap jumps into action. K-swap daemon, I think it has a 0 after it. That has nothing to do with Kubuntu or KDE. It's the name of the Ubuntu choice for swapping, and once K-swap comes in, the machine is doomed. I don't know if it's configured right, but it jumps into action. The other curious thing is that snap daemon also comes up. I have installed at least 1 or 2 snap applications. I don't quite understand what's going on, but I don't understand why snap daemon has a dog in the fight when memory gets low. But when memory gets low, I'll see that rise up in top, and I don't know what it's doing. But that's the other interesting thing. I can ask some of these open-ended questions to Gemini, and I'll get all of these possibilities is the way they're presented to me. And I find it's very interesting to read about possibilities that are offered to you on a silver platter when you're in the midst of problem solving, because even though you don't know which ones are going to come to fruition as the explanation, it's so great to have a logical rendition or display of the possibilities. And Google, without it being footnoted, it's just all itemized. One of the things that the other thing is I love the digression possibilities, because, you know, this isn't your job. You're not under a particular deadline necessarily, and I love the digressions that you can pursue in a thread. But the interesting thing is, Gemini will go anywhere with your digressions, and if you don't bring the digressions back, it doesn't seem to care whether the chat meanders over to it might close on a topic that's miles away from where you started the discussion. You have to you have to have the intelligence to bring Gemini back to the original focus. But anyway, Brent, I don't know if you have back on digression, back from the digression. I don't know if swap is properly configured.
I well also
The issues would be.
does the machine use a spinning disk or an SSD?
It's a spinning disk. I've already got an SSD. I'm going to load more memory and clone this drive over to an SSD. But I've actually enjoyed having this problem because it's been interesting to pursue.
Yeah, I mean, swapping on spinning disk will definitely slow things down to a crawl. And if you have no swap, yeah, it's going to just die an ugly death. Is my experience at least. Um, Anyone else want to weigh in before we move on?
Well, the obvious question. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Okay, just a couple of things. Usually, if this problem comes up, you think of how much storage space is left. You think of how much swap space and the swappiness. And I mean, I've heard incredible figures for swappiness, and this is something people can tell me what the usual range is. But I've heard like change from a 10 to a 120 for swappiness. But I also wonder if you're using a full distribution on a relatively modest machine, or whether you're using a light version, you say Ubuntu. I use Antix because it is, quote, lean and mean for old machines. And then the last thing I wanted to mention for people to respond to, because I can't explain it or really, but I understand there's a tool, a couple of tools, one of which is ZRAM, which is used, and I think it's a compression, an on-the-fly compression of the bytes, so that you can get to keep the system stabilized. But that's the only comments I've got.
Yeah. Well, at one time I actually did adjust the swappiness, and I can't remember whether the logic was to pull the number up or down to it seemed sometimes the discussion seemed to be that I was trying to avoid having the swap event begin, let's just stay away from that territory. But the thing that I've found most hopeful, and actually everything has been performing better since even though I put this warning notifications in the bash script, I've had an upgrade recently since then with Brave, and Brave seems to be doing a better job there is a memory saver configuration that has been set, and Brave was doing some inefficient things. Even though that was set, it was not. I was finding tabs open that I had never used, and some. I like to have a lot of tabs open just to have them open, and the Brave tools allow for keeping tabs inactive, but there's some algorithm for opening them up that where I would find them open, and I had no reason to believe that I had ever opened the tab during that browsing session. Well, that has improved with a recent upgrade. So I see no reason why an application that has a reputation for memory consumption, namely a browser, I see no reason why a browser should not have a program capability to tell it to back off if you're at a chosen memory consumption. I don't understand why it should be at the level of maintaining inactive tabs. There ought to be at least a way for it to create a first in, first out, or a revolving door of deactivating tabs. Based on an absolute memory threshold. Since if you know what the guilty application is, and I see no reason why a browser shouldn't have that built in to talk to the system. But at any rate, with the recent update, the inactivation of tabs seems to be keeping me away from that 200 megabyte black hole. Well, enough of that. Let's hear from others.
Dan, you had something to add?
Yeah, I wanted to respond to Rusty's question about swappiness. If memory serves, swappiness ranges from 0 to 200. And if you go down to 0, it means it swaps less aggressively in the system. If you go up to 200, it means it swaps very aggressively. So there's a range of 0 to 200 there. I don't know if it's affected by the media itself, whether SSD or spinning drive or not. I don't think so, but it's a kernel functionality. I just wanted to respond to you on that one.
Yeah.
Andrew?
Rusty, what kind of RAM does this machine use? I literally have parts bins of DDR2, 3. Did I hear right? You said you only have 4 gigabytes. That's like Raspberry Pi territory. That's getting down there for year of our Lord 2024. There's or 2025. It's real. It's just
Lord.
it's kind of yeah. If you need RAM or something, let me know. If you could tell me what type, I mail you a stick of it. I've probably decommissioned machines with more memory than that.
I've already shipped in some memory that I haven't installed.
Okay.
And I can't recall what I ordered, but I'm hoping that it allows asymmetry because I can't remember if.
Most of them will do, but it won't it'll affect the speed of the RAM if they aren't matched completely. But on a machine that old, you're not going to notice probably. I would say, yeah, DDR he likes to be in matched pairs for maximum performance, but in your current state, it's probably better to asymmetrically match more memory than it is to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what I ordered creates an asymmetry problem, but till I opened the package, I can't remember what I ordered.
Yeah, I would say I mean, there's trying to be efficient and fix the problem, and then there's trying to tow 10,000 pounds with a device that's inadequate to do it.
Yeah.
And it's these especially Chromium-based browsers their JavaScript engine is very heavy, uses a lot of RAM. 8 gigabyte is about the minimum you really can get away with these days, I think, on doing that and having, I guess my thing is, if you spend so much time chasing around problems on the machine with that, you're not getting what you originally set out to get done. So, but yeah, like I said, everybody, if it doesn't work, let me know. I've got, I can mail you guys. I can mail you a Sticko RAM if you can tell me what type it is. Probably. It depends on what's in the parts bin.
Well,
Steve's had his hand up, I think.
Yeah,
Rusty.
Dan.
Yeah, Rusty, also, before you go out and buy a bunch of RAM, make sure you look at your user manual and find out what the maximum amount of RAM your system will take.
Oh, yeah. This may be limited to 8 gigabytes.
Well, then, okay, then you can increase.
That sounds right. Your late DDR2, early DDR3 machines are 8 gigs, and then your later DDR
Yeah.
3 would be 16 gig, 32 gig limited probably. It's crazy now with DDR5. You can get 96 or 128 gig. You can get 48 or 64 gigs single SODIMMs.
Yeah, and the problem only comes from just light, I'm text oriented. I do a lot of reading. I just like to have these clusters of tabs available. But the main thing is the habits of users is that once you're absorbed into reading or a browser, even just that next 50 megabytes of memory is what kills you, and then the Windows environment is what's dying. And at least if you have a high priority, the terminal is there, and you know what the guilty process is. So just kill the most recent process and dig your way out of it. But that tool is not provided by the browser. It has to be, in this case, a bash script. It's the only thing. It's such a relief if you've frozen many times. It's such a relief to suddenly have the screen jump to a usable console.
Yeah, it sounds like you need to put in a feature request for a flush lever, like a toilet, on your browser. Steve, you had something to say? You're muted, Steve.
There we go. Just two things come to mind. First of all, not all your hardware may be working right. Sometimes part of your memory may be broken. And the other thing is, I'm someone who has used in the past SpinRite, which is said to sometimes revitalize the disk at least. So I wonder whether you have a way of checking that the memory sticks are okay, and have a way of have SpinRite or something where you're checking the function of the disk to make sure that that's part of the problem.
I don't have any. I don't know what that would be. I've never had an application I've used to examine the disk.
Does SpinRite run in Linux? Steve? You're muted.
I thought it was a fairly common app that most folks had heard of. It has a built-in, I think FreeDOS is the older version. And there's I have version 6, which is many years old. 6.1 came out recently, and it's a free update for me, but I haven't done it. And he's working on 7 to take advantage of newer elements that the 6 did not. But the comments that people make, about, oh my God, this has rejuvenated my system, using this. That doesn't mean that it's appropriate for every use case or every problem. But there's only two things that go wrong with a computer. One is three things. One is hardware, one is software, and one is the user. But if you just think in terms of hardware and software, and say if it's a hardware issue, or anything I do with software is not gonna be as effective as taking care of the hardware issue in addition to any software issues. I'm happy to circulate the name of this and where you get it if you want to investigate it, for anybody who wants to investigate this. Um,
I,
and I'll just post that.
Yeah, Steve, I was familiar with SpinRite, but I guess my misunderstanding is SpinRite runs in the bootable media like FreeDOS. It doesn't run in Linux or Windows or anything like that.
Oh, you boot from SpinRite.
Yeah, okay.
I'm I'm familiar with SpinRite from like back in the 90s of like it would mark bad sectors on hard drives,
Yep.
Yeah.
which DOS would pick up and not write. I'm not sure of that utility now because well everyone's either on SSDs and if you do have a hard drive made in the last 10 years, it's not exposing the bare sectors to the software. There's like a controller that does a translation layer. So I don't know, and it keeps track of the bad sectors on the little chip there. So I don't know what that would.
Well, there's something
I
called
can tell you that currently on the Gibson Research Corporation website, there's a lot of folks who throw in positives, and who are currently using it. So it may be that there's an enormous number of people with really old hardware, which doesn't have the advantage of this. But I really suspect that it still offers current users, and I think now it's getting into SSDs. I think with 6.1, it's even taking on SSDs in spite of the name. But
it's I don't know.
so
I'm looking at it now. I'm just curious because it's like it's so like the SSDs and modern hard drives have a controller. It's like trying to use a carburetor tool on a modern car with an ECU. The ECU is taking care of all of that in the back end and not actually exposing the real runnings of the drive to any software. So I kind of, um, it would be interesting to see what, I'll have to look at it and see because that's, I'm just curious as to what it actually does these days.
what
yeah,
about
I mean,
what
I would
about
say to
smart
anybody
drive?
who's got a potential problem, I think if you buy one, it's $60 unless they've changed the price. So it's not a huge amount of money. And, if you go online and look and see if there are people with similar problems and similar hardware, and they say, to their surprise, this thing really helped in spite of the fact that it's only a 4-year-old machine and whatever. And again, if it's Rusty's machine does sound like it's a bit older, and it does have a spinning hard drive at the moment that he's depending upon. So I think the basic thing is if you have enough of an issue or enough of a concern, you want to try something, that might be something you'd find that really helped. And again, it might do nothing, depending upon your hardware and your
That
problem.
my advice would run counter to Steve. No offense, Steve here, but if you're gonna put $60 into an old machine, I would just go buy an SSD for
Yeah.
$60 and huck the hard drive in the bin.
Yeah, but
That
the
will,
question
yeah,
is, it might be an SSD that's a problem too, and people
yeah.
have already bought the SSD. I'm saying I think this
I'm
is a fairly general purpose thing, but you're the expert. I'm only a permanent newbie, so I know
uh,
basically nothing.
I've just always kind of there's a lot of snake oil and there are the only two industries with more snake oil salesmen in them than actual snake oil salesmen are audio and computer stuff. So I kind of uh, knowing what I know about how SSDs work, I don't know. I kind of want to do an evaluation on this and see what it's claiming to do because he's talking about the mid and the end of the drive, and that's all hidden behind like the smart controller. That these days
Mhm.
like you don't get access to the bare NAND. Um, uh, it's interesting claims, and I don't know enough to dispute them on what Gibson's saying here, but it seems
You know,
I don't
it
know. It
would
just
be
seems a bit
great. You're a
strange.
skeptic. You're a
Yeah.
skeptic, and it would be super great if you had a chance to try it. I can give you I can get a 6.1 and send it to you on a trial basis, even though, you know, because I'm a legitimate owner. And then if at least that's the one that's available, not 7 yet. And then if you have a way of trying it on a machine, you can tell me if for your machines it's utter garbage, or you see some use cases where it could have some promise, or it's, you know, the best hot dog in town.
I guess so.
I
Like particularly
I'm willing
SSDs,
to do that.
particularly SSDs do a lot in the controller with like wear leveling and stuff like that. So they're, you know, a lot of them over provision, so like you don't write on the same sectors all the time, so they last longer. And
Yeah,
yeah, this is.
yeah.
I'm going to do some research. Sorry, guys. Yeah, there's two hands up.
Yeah. Alan.
I'm wondering if some of these memory problems can be fixed or helped just by clearing the browser cache, because that cache is probably consuming quite a bit of memory.
Yeah, it may be that what I've witnessed is that, like I mentioned, the inactivation of tabs I thought was not working in the way I expected for as a memory saving method. And I'm wondering if the cache is being whittled down incrementally now. That, like I say, I've had a recent upgrade of Brave, and it seems to be doing better. And I'm wondering if there was some flaw in the way that tabs were being unloaded, and whether so rather than a wholesale renewal of cache, you know, totally, it would make sense to at least diminish the cache, and to diminish it by some logical removal of certain tabs that have, you know, added to it. So again, there should the cache. Once the cache grows from 0, you would think that at some point there would be one of these algorithms of first in, first out, and where you start removing, you know, dated or, you know, unnecessary. I mean, surely there must be some connection between inactivating a tab and reducing your cache. But I don't know where what the philosophy is of these memory saving tools. But they're working better now with well, I appreciate these discussions. Let's hear on some other topics from others.
Well, I got a question, Rusty. I mean,
Yeah.
you would benefit greatly from moving from a spinning drive to an SSD. However, that's not going to fix your problem with your Brave browser.
Yeah.
That's a strictly memory issue. And
Yes.
as far as I'm concerned, no browser that I'm aware of monitors how many tabs you have open. And if you start exceeding your memory capacity, is going to reduce the number of browser tabs you have open. That's something the user is going to have to do. And then when you do that, the application has to have time to capture that memory back and reutilize it. And it's not going to be immediate. You close a browser or two browser or tabs rather, or 3 tabs, it's not going to be an immediate change in your memory level, because your browser software has to accommodate that over time. And it takes time for that to happen. Not a lot of time, but it takes time.
Well, that's another reason why going immediately to a console and killing a process, which actually the bash script is designed to deliver it's supposed to be delivering the latest process, the highest number process that has Brave attached to it, or is a child of the original Brave process, and that the script composes a kill command that is offered for you to execute once you enter that console, which is anyway, the main point is that killing the process does make the memory available to you without waiting for the browser to give it up or
Right. I agree with that. But is each process associated with the browser reflected in a tab? I mean, every time you launch a tab, is there another process spawned?
Yeah, you can see this. You can see this. These extra processes become spawned by a browser. They are labeled just Brave by Brave. If when they're spawned in Firefox, they have a name called isolated web content.
Okay.
But each isolated web content is another tab showing up.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on from this topic as best we can. I mean, you can certainly keep talking about it as we go through around the room. It's not verboten. Steve, what do you have going on? You're muted.
Yeah. Hi. Well, there's a couple of things. One is just an announcement. Who is anybody else here using Yahoo Mail?
Nope.
Okay, then it's what I was going to say is irrelevant, and I won't say it.
Please say it. My in-laws use it, and they don't like when their cheese gets moved. So if there's some movement of cheese, I need to know about it.
They very recently cut the amount of memory allocated to each account. In the case of a free account, which I have, it was from 1 terabyte to 20 gigabyte. And then they do that, obviously, in order to promote the shift from free accounts to paid accounts. But they also did something similar with paid accounts. We have that for my wife, just because I felt over the years we should at least pay them something. So I basically said, we'll have my wife's account will be paid, mine won't. And I figured also if she needed support, she might get some support that way. I had 27 gigs, and yeah, I had 27 gigs. That's my associate over there. And so I had to get rid of 7, which turned out to be very awkward because it looked like it wasn't recognizing when I would delete things, and everything was manual. Well, finally, I'm below 20, and I'm going to stay below 20. But it also made me think about getting an email client and just using, taking the Yahoo Mail and pumping it through an email client and having a better control and just keeping whatever I wanted to that way, which I may do in a slow fashion. That was all in. GH, holler.
That's
I'd like
me.
to holler.
That's me.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I have some ancient a bellsouth.net and an att.net account that come through Yahoo Mail. Is that going to apply to me or no?
I don't know. I raised this with a neighbor who hadn't heard anything. So, I mean, I think if you wait for an announcement, since it's another company, it may be that that's up to Southwest Bell, to decide, yeah, we'll go along and also limit the amount. Is your account free?
Yeah, it's just an email account from when I had a telephone service through AT&T and Bell South back in the old days. And I just use it mainly as a dumper. If I know somebody's going to spam me, I'll give them that address.
Very clever. The other thing that I wanted to mention.
So that's why you gave me that address.
Yeah, Dan. If you don't like that, I've got a couple more. If you,
He's got a bunch of aliases.
I
I've
bet
got a
you. I bet
million.
you do. I bet you do.
The other thing is just a small peculiarity. I periodically add a new kernel to see if it's going to work on the machines I have. So one machine runs the unstable. If you're familiar with Debian, they have a succession of new distributions. In other words, when they plan a new version of Debian, the first step is called, I think, experimental, and that nobody, I don't think anybody sees that, but people who are actually developers. Then after that, or unless you're knowledgeable and you go and you search it out. And then there's unstable, which is fairly widely available for the few people who want to deal with unstable and see the newest things. And then there's one that they call Trixie. And Trixie is the pre-release, basically. And then they have the current release, which is called stable, and then old stable. So on one of my machines, I run the current stable, and on another one, I run SID. And I recently wanted to listen to music with a USB Logitech headset. This one, as a matter of fact, which generally has worked in the past on both machines. And I found that with the new kernel, that PAVO, Pulse Audio Volume Control, or Pulse Audio Volume U, did not detect the USB headset. And I haven't really figured out what the reason is, but it seems to be primarily with this real-time kernel. And so therefore, it was suggested to me that the real-time kernels don't just a minute. Okay, bye-bye. The real-time kernels do not contain all the essential stuff that a general purpose kernel might contain for things like USB. I don't know. I'm just trying to do a little bit at a time to analyze it just for kicks. But since I can always boot with another kernel which works on that machine and allows me to use the USB headset, it's not really a big problem. And for all I know, it's a peculiarity that only affects a few types of hardware anyway. So I thought I'd throw that out in case anybody has special words of wisdom about that.
What is your desire to run a real-time kernel?
Oh no, it was just because that was the newest kernel that I saw at that time, and I like to see what if an updated kernel has anything that doesn't work. All of a sudden it's not booting on this hardware, or just to report basically if anybody was interested. Yes, it still boots. So in general, it still boots. On the other machine, when I booted from a similar non-real-time kernel, I think. It's a 61230 from backports, and that one time didn't boot. And it's interesting when they do go through the booting process that sometimes you get a long list of things and a long delay, and with other boots it just goes nice and smoothly. And I scratch my head, but I figure that's way above my pay grade to try to understand easily, unless I want to devote myself to that or start speaking to Gemini, neither of which I want to do. Anyway, computer-wise, I should say the only other thing is perennial issue on my Lenovo box, which is from 2008. I once took it apart to replace the fan, and it was a huge job. It's for a person like me. And so it's been years and years with the new cheap fan. And recently the temperatures were going up close to critical temperature, and it looked like the fan wasn't started. And I had to go through. Normally it turns out, now that's a BIOS GPT. setup. And it turns out, I didn't realize it, the BIOS generally by default might control fan versus having a fan control setup after you boot that you can access and control. But there's also fan control mechanisms, thermal monitoring and fan control mechanisms in on the machine. So I ignored what the BIOS had to offer, which was normal or silent, and I figured silent would be doing nothing. And I I did what's called detect sensors. I don't know if this is something unique to Debian, but that's a program to look and see all your sensors and tell you what modules to add if you want things to work. So I did that, added modules, and then after a while, it seemed like now the fan was working. I could hear fan noise and I could feel a hot wind coming out of the side. And temperatures sometimes are relatively low. A couple of days ago, it was staying in the 40s, but commonly it'll go up into the 60s, 70s, and sometimes the 80s. Um, and as long as the machine seems to be functioning and not going really going critical or showing me that it's going to lock down, it's going to shut down, I can live with that without trying to open it up. I know that, when in doubt, um, yeah, when in doubt, the answer is always open the machine up and make sure everything is connected right. Make sure the hardware is working. And when there's a thermal issue, if there's a CPU temperature issue, make sure that you have good thermal paste. And if you have a heat sink, that sort of thing. And I'm just very reluctant, unless it gets worse, to go back to opening it up again. But anyway, that's a problem I think that a lot of people have dealt with in the past. So I thought I'd throw it out there. And that's it.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
I have run into that issue many times when I was working on repairing laptops. And most of the time, it's caused by buildup of not dirt, but this fuzzy stuff that gets sucked in to the intake and gets deposited. I don't, that may not do the job. I've had to open them up and suck them out with a vacuum, and they started working fine again. You
Yeah.
might want to check that.
Yeah. If I get to work, if I get desperate enough to open it up, I'm going to have a blower and a micro vacuum, hopefully in hand,
Yeah.
to try to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you may find out that's what's going on.
Leander.
I
Leander,
got
you don't
tired
like
by
mine?
well, those they run out, and I've got an air compressor downstairs now for the shop that I use. But if you don't have that, these are pretty cheap, and strangely they're still made. I don't know if that's maybe more of a warning label these days, but with quality being what it is. But this is what I use. Still, I'll take it out back and blow it out, and this does a better job than the can air. The only thing, you got to take this little filter out and clean it, but and you're not wasting money on air. I think this is about, well, a can of air is like $8 to $10 these days, something like that. But this is like one case of canned air, and it lasts a lifetime. So it is
Okay.
heavy though. It's made by a vacuum cleaner company, but it's called the DataVac Electric Duster by Metro. So
Can you post that? Well,
yeah, I'll see if I
just
can
send that
find it
to the
again.
list. I'll know.
Yeah.
I'll consider buying one.
I recommend them if you have any kind of electronics, because canned air gets expensive after a while.
Dan, did you have something to say?
Well, he told us what it was. That's what I was going to ask him, what the manufacturer was. But if you put it in the show notes or the chat,
They
that'd be
have,
good.
and if you're okay, they have, back when I bought this 15 years ago, this was the only thing. But nowadays we have them at work. They're battery powered. They just take 18650s, and you charge them with USB, and they've got a pretty good. They're a bit more portable. I still think this one's stronger because it takes from the wall. It gets from the wall gas, but it yeah, they're all about $50-$60, I think, usually.
Also makes a great hair dryer.
Oh wow, those have gone up. Gosh, the one I have is $120 now. When did that happen? Well, there are like I said, I did buy it 15 years ago. I want to say it was 50 or 60 back then, um but yeah, they have you can get the little Chinese knockoff ones that are battery powered for 30 or $40. So, yeah. I'll just send a link to the list or something.
All right,
You
thanks,
know,
Andrew. Go ahead.
This business of dust in a machine brings to mind the thing that I think is so missing with vacuum cleaning. You know, when you vacuum clean your house, you get the satisfaction of seeing everything that you accumulate. But when you vacuum clean a small thing like a fan in a computer or even the keyboard, you really don't get the satisfaction of seeing what you've done. And among many projects, I would love to have a transparent trap, including an inlet filter to the trap, so that I could see everything that comes out of the particular laptop or whatever it is that I'm cleaning, so that I get to see the evidence. And this raises another question. I'm wondering, at least with a vacuum cleaner, I don't know what you do with a positive pressure, because it's going to just dispel everything wherever it goes. But at least vacuuming, it appears to me you can vacuum on the exit path of a computer fan, or you can vacuum on the intake path. And you can hear the fan spinning, or sometimes you can feel the vibration of the fan spinning when you're applying a vacuum load. But any thoughts about what's actually going on when you pull the air through the regular exit pathway, or pull the air backwards to the intake pathway? And is it bad for the fan? I mean, I don't know what's going on down there.
It's fine for the fan unless there's something stuck in it. They aren't that sophisticated. I mean, I blow against the grain and with the grain with this one just to get all of the dust out of both sides. And that's the other thing is the canned air is like a type of refrigerant. I don't think it's especially harmful to the environment, but I still don't like expelling, you know, some kind of fluorocarbon into my environment. Um, as to Rusty's point about slinging the dust out everywhere, that is something. So usually I take my machine out on the porch, or if I'm going to blow something out, I'll take it outside, and you can run an extension cord, or if you have the battery powered one, you just go outside and blow it out there. But yeah, it's lint, dust, stuff from a carpet, things get trapped in there, all sorts of other cat fuzz, gubbins, but they'll pick it up. But yeah, don't worry, it's spinning the fan backwards is not a problem, and it's way worse, in my opinion, to have like a buildup of crud in there, just due to it'll get on the fan blades, and the fan blades will then be unevenly weighted, and it'll wear on the motor, and it blocks the heat sink up, and it's just kind of a maintenance item. In the data centers, we've got those sticky pads that you step on when you walk in that peel the dirt off your feet, and they've got massive filtration. In your house, if you want, you can run one of those, like Home
HEPA
Depot,
filters.
the air purifiers, yeah, and then they'll trap the dust and kind of cut down on getting it in the computer. But it's such a problem in data centers that we've got mitigation measures for dust and fuzz. So, but yeah, it's I wouldn't worry about blowing the fan backwards or anything. I would just I'd take the side off the case and let her rip. That's the nice thing about the vacuum, the electronic ones too. One, you're not dispelling some chemical out into your environment that they're going to find out in 20 years causes something. Two, those get, because of the ideal gas law, eventually if you blow with those long enough, they start to temperature drops and they lose their effectiveness, so they spray that frozen refrigerant out. These don't do that. You can sit there and just blow, really get down in there and knock all that stuff out for a while and not have to worry about the can losing a charge. There's, like I said, for me, it's kind of the environmental and waste factor of it. That's, once the can's done, it's done. This is, buy once, cry once kind of thing. And, you got it for years and it's reusable.
And Rusty, a leaf blower works pretty well too if you've got a lot of dust.
Yep. If you've got even a small pancake air compressor, just get a blow nozzle for it. That works pretty well too. But those can be a pain in the butt to haul around and set up, and sometimes a little blower is worth it, just not to have to deal with that. But
how about starter fluid?
Oh,
that would solve your problem. But
yeah.
I used ether in Vermont to get the choke unclogged until it peeled, until it dissolved all the relevant membranes that were holding things together, and then the car required a different repair.
Starter fluid and a match ought to take care of the problem, right?
These air blower devices are super useful, not just for electronics, but air conditioning coil. Like, if you've got something in the house that's got crud in it, they're good for all of that stuff to get it out. They're kind of a multi-purpose thing to have around, I think. So.
Oh, Brent.
Sorry, I just felt a Hunter S. Thompson quote was appropriate here.
Oh gosh.
Okay, moving on. Let's make sure I'm not picking anybody who's not on camera. Alan.
Just doing my general computer stuff. Been playing around with AI, the AI engines, and also was proud of myself. Yesterday, I fixed our Generac generator. Took it apart and put it back together, and it's now working again.
Is this a whole house unit?
Yes. The problem was it was a 3-position toggle switch on the panel, and I could start it manually, but it would not start up in automatic mode when the power is disconnected. So anyway, I found a $8 3-position toggle switch at Grainger, bought it and installed it, and that seems to work.
So how you tested it by shutting off the power to your house?
Yes. Just
well, if we
pull
ever
down
buy
the.
one, I'll know who to ask for help in the event that it stops working.
Well, we had a Generac service technician come out maybe about a year ago, and he said, "This thing is too old. Just buy a new Generac. There's parts not available for our generator." And so I bought a replacement starter motor and installed that, and that helped the worst problem, but it was still having what I suspected could be a computer control module, which is extremely expensive and they're hard to find. So I just started looking at possible issues with it, and I landed on this toggle switch, simple enough, and that seemed to be the problem.
Well, good on you, Alan. Anything else?
Not really. Enjoyed the conversation about the swap space and memory issues, and I will certainly. I went in at my command line and just checked. Used the free command to see how much memory I actually have installed, and I also did cat /PROC meminfo, and that provided a lot of information on. You may want to try that just to see what's going on with your memory.
All right. Thanks, Alan. Larry.
I thought that was a interesting conversation for a Rusty's problem also. I'm running this, and I've told you before, this older laptop, 4 gigabytes of RAM. It originally had Windows Vista, I think 32-bit, and I'm running 64-bit MX Linux 23.1 with Vivaldi installed from a Debian package. And anything
Live
really.
streaming is on.
So this functions for what I do. And the kids here, they're 6 and 7 and 10 years old, see my laptop connected to the Wi-Fi in this house. They immediately want to watch videos. That seems to be what they're growing up with in schools, with tablets and whatever. That's what YouTube, growing up with YouTube, which of course that wasn't the way it was when I was in school. But when they'll come in here and watch monster truck videos, all kinds of videos for children, whatever they want. They know how to find it, and never have any issues with this laptop. It would probably be good if it did have issues, because their parents don't want them spending all their time watching videos and watching TV, trying to get them away from that stuff. And the schools aren't helping much. The schools just seem to do the same thing. Give them a laptop or a tablet, and that's what they know how to do. And it kind of makes me wonder also about what it's like growing up, not just with YouTube, but with AI, artificial intelligence. You know, that wasn't the way it was when I was in school, and it's just a different world. And I see a lot of people who seem to like AI, and maybe it's making them intelligent. They're artificial. That's what I tell people now. You don't have to know anything. You can be artificially intelligent. So, different world these days, it seems to me. So that's some of my 2 cents worth. I do have actually, I think I've said this before, one computer with 8 gigabytes of RAM. This one only has 4. And I haven't even been using it, but it had a little problem with beeping, and I pulled the RAM out to take it back in, and it started working great. I was saying, well, this is the best computer I've ever had. And it doesn't have SSD either. It's got a spinning hard drive in it. So I might crank it up sometime just periodically just to see that it still works. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth about YouTube, AI, and children, I guess, these days. Different from a different world to me than the old days, I guess you call it. So I'll quit on this, and other people can chime in if you have anything to say about all that.
Well, if there's no specific response to Larry, then Pete.
Put my camera going here. Is it going to work? Okay. I have been trying to keep up with all the appliances that are dying in my house since I hit 84 a week or 2 ago. One of the things that I stumbled on, my garage door opener, I think it was a 2017 when it was installed, that died. And I replaced it with a Chamberlain garage door opener. And I stumbled across this thing, which I think is really cool and really reasonable. It's called what's it called? Smart garage control. It looks like this. You paste this on the garage door, and it also comes with a Wi-Fi hub. And what it does is allow you to check your garage door anywhere you have internet access. You can do it from Australia or from Canada, whatever. And there's a free app that goes with it. And it looks like this. And it tells you if you left your garage door open or not. And if you did, you can close it. And they sell for $30 at Home Depot. But if you go online, you can find them at Amazon sometimes, and myq.com is the outfit that makes it. It's part of Chamberlain. And they've been on sale recently for $20. So if you've got a garage door and you forget whether you closed it or not, this is the answer. I use it all the time. Go ahead, Steve.
I'm security oriented to a degree, and what you're telling me says that you have put a device that's connected and is a part of your network that now can be accessed anywhere in the world.
Correct.
And it's a device that was made probably in China, and whether on that device there's some little back doors to the manufacturer if they want to access, your household as a starting point to invade cyber war against the U.S., then you've become a part of the problem.
Well, I think you're correct. However, I don't have an answer for you. I just, if they open the door, if somebody else gets their codes or whatever and opens the door, every time the door opens or closes, it sends you a text message that the door has opened or closed. So as far as getting access to the house physically, you are given a heads up. So if it opens and you're not home, you can, number one, close it. Number two, you can drive home real quick or something. I guess. I don't know. Okay, I guess, Dan, you had a question, and Gene.
Gene was first.
Pete, circling back to your all of your appliances failing, have you had a power surge?
We've had some bad lightning storms up here the last.
Yeah, it sounds like you had something run in on your electrical system.
That would not be the first time, that's for sure.
I had a similar problem. Duke Power, in their infinite wisdom, hooked my home up to a 220 line. So what was coming into my house was 220.
Two phase or
well, double the amount that normally.
So it had a neutral and a 120.
So it knocked out
all your stuff.
A lot of stuff that was on. And to their credit, Duke Power paid to replace them all.
Wow.
And said it was their fault and blah blah blah. But I'm just glad I didn't try to hook up a dryer or something. You'd have seen me lit up.
I've never heard of that.
Me either.
I never thought it could happen either. But
what were they thinking?
Well, I think they had one of those emergency installers that was treating everying as though it were, let's slap it together and come back later and fix it.
Wow, that is scary.
It was scary.
Dan, you had a response as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you in response to or in relation to what Steve was talking about. Do you know what port that uses that device that has to be open to the internet?
Good question. I do not, and I don't remember how to check what ports are in use.
Yeah,
practically nothing is open to the internet for smart devices most times. It's almost always it reaches out to a cloud something for its instruction, and then
RFID.
you communicate to the cloud for the cloud function. So it's usually pull, not push, but I mean, I'm not saying that it might not be something like that, but it's extremely rare that, because to do that you have to have something in your router or something that will forward the port, because most
Yeah.
things are not directly on the internet. So almost everything is through HTTPS, and it's reaching out to something in the cloud that is the arbiter, and it's rare that there's a port open for it or so forth.
Well, something's got to be open to the cloud. I mean,
Well,
arbiter.
again, it's it's a pull, like it's checking in. It's like pinging, and is there a new instruction? Is there a new instruction? Is there a new instruction? Until
Right.
finally there is.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's reaching out.
I hadn't thought of
The,
that.
the security implication here is that on the remote end could be compromised, or the company selling you the smart device decides they want to gather more data, so they tell it's kind of more of like, well, what is it phoning home with, and how are they correlating that data? Or if their infrastructure gets compromised, what does that person who compromised their infrastructure, what do they have? So
Or unless, as Steve said, they have a deliberate backdoor installed, which they could.
that's
Steve,
Yeah, I guess my point is that if you can be in Australia and get back through that device to your network, I wonder if the manufacturer through that device can access your network in a way that you might want them, full access to. And as Leander points out, I guess a lot of this is dependent on what's available through the router. But ultimately, if you've installed it and the router is now accepting this, coming in from willy nilly from you in Australia, and unless it's a question of it still requires you to access your network to find out, you're not going through the device, you're going through your network to question the device, then it may be okay. Anything where any of these smart devices, I'm skeptical of to begin with. But from what you say, it certainly can be that you've set up something that's secure, VPN or whatever, and SSH, and you're going through your network to find out what that's saying. So again, I'm a permanent newbie. I have visions of problems that other people with better understanding of the workings of the system will know are trivial.
it
I
it
think you have a
really
good point, Steve.
yeah.
And
It's good.
uh,
Sorry.
I don't know what the answer is. A friend of mine just got this electronic stimulator thing for if you have muscles that are hurting or something. And in the manual that comes with it, it says it's made in China, and it says do not connect this to your laptop to recharge it. It is. We don't know what is inside that little box.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game nowadays. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would assume that recommendation is largely based upon the rather significant voltage it probably puts out in its normal operation.
Or
Probably. Yeah.
probably, I was gonna say charging. It's probably not, your laptop's not going to give enough juice to charge it. So it's probably more of a practical, like people plug it into their laptop and thinking it's not charging when it's supposed to be.
So I think that's it for me. My 25-year-old clothes washer died. My garage door opener died. What else? I had a couple other things. It's like I'm putting out bad vibes. Or don't turn 84, guys. It's not good. That's it for me.
Alan
Alan?
had a question.
Go ahead, Alan.
Yes, most garage doors have a electronic remote control device,
Yeah.
and they typically operate on like 433 megahertz.
315.
Okay, they have different frequencies that they set that are standard. And Pete, you're probably correct, but the and then you can change the code. You can program in the code for the remote to work with your garage door operator, the receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect that the smart control that work over the internet provide an interface to that garage door opener, that remote control code.
Okay.
Is that how yours works?
I think so because, well, I'm not sure. I have to get new. It comes with one clicker, which is, I like the ones that go on your keychain, and this one is, goes on the visor. So I had to get new clickers. The old ones stopped working with the new garage door opener.
Because they sell devices to hack garage doors.
Yes, that's why
Where-
they came out with the rolling code ones. That they're
Correct.
all rolling code now,
Uh-huh.
which is supposedly hack free.
All right. I just thought I would chime in.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Pete. Gene.
Okay. Well, in my ongoing quest to break all my computers, I don't know. I mentioned it one time before. I was trying to boot off of a SD card just to see if I could do it, and I messed everything up one time before. So, not learning my lesson, I kept on doing it, and the problem that I got into, and it's because I don't understand the booting process well enough, is the UEFI boot and also Grub. So I need education on both of those items, I think. So I'm going to have to see if I can find a tutor online, or maybe I could ask the AI to help me through it. But I've got it all back right. It's just that when I did the install onto the SD card, I stupidly checked that the boot sector would be on the SD card, thinking that would do it, and then that evidently took it off of the hard drive and put it on the SD card. So I completely lost my ability to boot. So anyway, and then I found out that I had been using rsync to back up, and I said, well, why not use DD and get a like a bare metal copy? So I copied my hard drive to another partition on the same hard drive, and of course that didn't work. So anyway, I came back from it, but it took a day or so of messing around with it to try to get it back right. But I've recovered from my stupidity somewhat. I mean, the stupidity is still there. But,
That's how you learn, Gene.
well, yeah, it's all a learning process, I guess. Steve, you had something?
Yeah. The first thing to say that I would say to anybody who says I've had a problem with Grub or booting is Roderick Smith, who's got a whole bunch of pages, and he wrote many years ago. He wrote a book on the multi-boot computer, which I owned at one point. I may have given it to somebody, and it's not apparent to me where it is, but it's out of date. But he's got stuff, and he also developed or reinvigorated, perhaps, an alternate boot tool from Grub called Refined. And on one occasion, I know I've had a messed up boot with Grub going to Grub Rescue, which is not to me a very pleasant occurrence, and because I know nothing about it, and Refined actually turns out to be the way that computer now boots best. Um, but the other comment is, please tell us how you solved your problem.
Oh, well, it was basically how I've solved all the problems before, which is to go back and reinstall the OS. So, but the problem with that was that I thought I had a backup that worked, and the backup didn't work. So that became another problem. But I found an old backup, and I'm back to my needs and wants on browsing and stuff like that haven't changed much over the years. Oh, the other thing that I started doing was playing around with getting rid of Snap, and that's not a pleasant process either. Pete, what did you have?
Oh, I wanted to know the name of the person that you mentioned, Steve, for the.
Oh, it's Rod Smith, but his full name is Roderick.
Okay. So he's under Rod Smith if I check it on the internet?
If you go either Rod Smith or Roderick Smith, I think you'll find it. And if there's any issue, I just let me know, and I will send you a link to to his basic websites.
Okay. Thanks.
So Rusty had mentioned Snap, and I got into this loop with Snap where every time I would power up my computer, it would say update Snap. And I mean, once a week or once a month or something like that, update Snap, but not every boot up. So I said, I've had enough of this. I don't know what they're doing, what they're messing around with, but I don't like it. So I was playing around with knocking Snap out, and really only two programs that I use, Thunderbird and Firefox, are installed by default in Xubuntu, installed under the Snap system. So I did take them off and put at least Firefox back on with the without Snap, with the deb package. But even that, it seems like I lost the ability, and it's something to do with the start menu, with the icon on the desktop, with the icon on the taskbar, whatever it is. I messed up and clicked one of those, and it sent me back to the message, you must have Snap installed to install Firefox. So, I'm kind of in a circular whatever, whirlpool.
Loop.
Maelstrom. Anyway, I've survived all that, and I'm still here. And I guess that's it for me. If anybody has any questions, I don't know. So, all right, Brent, back to you.
Leander.
I am. I was reading about SpinRite, and the more I look into it, the less I'm convinced it does anything useful on a modern SSD. It has not for years. But anyway, Anyway, let's see. I haven't been doing a whole lot at home because work has been busy. We have last time I was running on my Raspberry Pi. I still have that set up there, but that desk is currently, I've got a couple of boards I'm replacing capacitors on. It's thrown apart out there. I got did I talk about this last time? I got a screaming deal on a fully computer controlled telescope off of, the only time I really use Facebook is Facebook Marketplace. It was an 11-inch Schmidt Cassegrain Celestron CPC 11, and yeah, but my next project is to try to set up I still haven't gotten anywhere on it, is to try to set up a little Raspberry Pi to control that remotely. But I got it for like the $4,000 scope, and I got it for like $1,500. Turns out it was a Amazon return, and this guy owns one of those bulk bin companies. So still haven't done with that because the weather's been, well, weather garbage. Yeah, been doing I got FFmpeg running on our cluster at work because I've been making videos on how to use HPC, and the M1 MacBook they issued me for work is a bit slow on that final render for YouTube. So I was like, wait, I'm the admin of a 414 core supercomputer, so I made a compiled FFmpeg for Red Hat, stuck it up there in an L mod so everyone can use it, and I can transcode videos pretty quickly now. It seems like I had comments about other things too, but it's your fault, Steve. I got sucked into the spin right thing. That's your fault anyway. But yeah, I just been I got I talked about Anubis a little bit the last time, but I have stats on that now where I set up Anubis is a bot blocking AI scraper blocking program that stops people from beating up your website. And I was seeing a lot. I set up a Pewigio instance for some photo stuff, and I saw a lot of traffic on it, and it was all OpenAI, all Alibaba, and I put Anubis in front of it, and it does the SSL termination, and then it does its proof of work check to make sure that you're a real web browser, not a bot, and then it passes back through to Nginx on a socket. And yeah, I was getting 40,000 hits a day. That machine was screaming and on fire because they were like, "Oh, this is fresh data. We're going to vacuum this up," and it's down to like less than 5 hits a day now. It's really a tremendous piece of software. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been at. People talk about using LLMs. Olama just released a new update a couple of days ago, and they now have like a desktop GUI, but not in Linux. It's only on Mac and Windows for the desktop GUI is a thing. Apparently, Electron is living up. It's an Electron app, which is like basically Chrome in a window. Apparently, Electron is living up to Java's history of hey, it's run once, compile everywhere, mostly, except not really. So apparently, they've had problems in the Linux version. I'm still overly dubious on the AI stuff. I find it. My biggest problem is like if a person isn't sure on something, well, there's a lot of problems with it, but it's people using it for research, and I still don't understand how people trust it for something outside their domain of expertise because it just lies. They make stuff up. They don't there's no like there's no context around it. It never says I'm not sure, this might be it, I don't know, like you would get with a person. But it is where everything is going. So I am trying to learn how to run, and I still try to keep up with the stuff. But yeah, that's kind of about it. Doing my usual kind of futzing around with things. School starts in a couple of weeks, and I'm gonna be busy with that.
So I should dump my AI best friend?
I would just be careful because they are yeah, I would be very careful for numerous reasons. It's again, I just don't know if they are so confidently wrong when I know what they're talking about. I'm like, that's not right at all. What are you talking about? And then so I don't know how people go on there and research things and say, well, this is outside of my field of expertise, so I'm just going to trust the robot. It's that Dunning-Kruger. What is that? Bell-Gelman amnesia, that phenomena where like you read a source on some subject that you have some expertise in, and you're like, wow, they really got this wrong. But then you read that same source on something else, and you're like completely convinced it's correct. It's, yeah, I don't really, yeah, but man, they are. It's definitely a bubble, but they are not going anywhere. It's uh, we all saw the jobs report yesterday, I'm assuming, but it is between this and outsourcing, I'm not sure what the next 5 to 10 years look like in the tech world. It's getting scary. People forget good enough is a big thing for most businesses. So it doesn't matter if it's wrong 30% of the time, if it's 3% the cost of a person. But yep, that's kind of all I've
Yeah.
been taking around with. Yeah.
On the AI, I just wanted to respond. I have used it on technical issues, and technical issues are relatively dispassionate. And there are places in literature where, for instance, wrong facts or wrong belief or wrong action is documented as a pitfall or a place for potential errors. And I've found that that Gemini seems to be good at actually raising those as warnings or cautions in the midst of offering solutions or explanations that are logical and rational. It also has recited in the examples that I've gone through. It acts like a teacher, and sort of presents potential pitfalls to avoid. I know nothing about any of these other not search engines, AI engines that are possibly designed to be personal companions or rumor mills um,
So
or
you don't have the
you,
Grok anime girlfriend yet. Okay. Is that what you're
yeah.
saying?
So,
Okay.
yeah, the thing that I find interesting about Gemini is that it seems to be programmed to not only, at least on these technical topics that I've pursued, it gives ample warnings or flags about things to avoid. And here's the other thing that I find so interesting in terms of protocol, and that it is so polite. Um, just the way it's a little overblown in terms of dumping so much data on you, first of all, when you ask a simple question, but it it, it at least doesn't indulge in flaming and regressive behavior that humans may often do, even at technical um, um, sites. Um,
Well, what's the
I
fun
mean,
in that, then?
we know how important etiquette is. Just in our own group here. When it's face to face interaction, and it's the same way etiquette is so important in text based communication.
It is. I do find them sycophantic. I don't really use them. We have a Copilot license at work, and so the other thing, and this could be boomer mentality, is they do love emojis, and they slap emoji. You can tell when a GitHub README was written by one of these things because it's full of stupid little emojis. But it
Mm-hmm.
it part of it is I just do not like interacting with a machine that way. It tickles some kind of uncanny valley thing in my brain, and for me, programming and like stuff is how I interact with a computer. I don't talk to it. I don't ask it questions. It's very procedural, and that does not. It's it feels frankly a bit disturbing to me. So it's that I don't know. My brain does not like it, and I kind of part of it is that, and when I have used them for stuff, some boilerplate stuff before to try to see how to if I can make my workflow any easier. It's definitely I found little things here and there where it's in it either suggests things that are too basic, or it's good at making. Maybe this is speaking to how my mind works, but a Gemini I've played with a little bit, and it's like it gives you like a set of steps, and I'm like, well, I've already tried that. I've already done that. Like it seems to be a good hand holding thing for very general basic things, and I I don't find it when you get too deeply involved. Maybe I'm just working on problems that are beyond the scope of it, but or maybe I have to pay Google and I'll get the good stuff. I don't know, but um, it just doesn't seem that terribly useful. I've used it for like generating templates on system D units and a few other things, and it's okay at that. I found a few problems in those when I've made them. Like I said, boilerplate stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I keep getting us off on this AI thing. I guess it's just a big topic, but it's and I kind of it's an LLM. I don't really think it's intelligent. Obviously for me, the generative stuff is a bit more interesting. The diffusion models, just from a math and science perspective, like your stable diffusion or your DALI or your things like that. The copyright violators. So um, those are more interesting just as a technical problem thing for me. But yeah, I still struggle, and I'm probably, but yeah, I will admit this is definitely a me problem. Most everyone at work has integrated these things into their workflow, left, right, and center. Um, Maybe I should feel pretty good about myself that I'm able to keep up with an augmented human in that way. But it's definitely a me problem, probably at this point. I don't know. I don't got anything for you on that. We are. I am looking at doing some more Kubernetes stuff here locally too, and I've figured out a few use cases for that. I could give a talk on Anubis for people who want to see it, um, maybe next month or October. If any, just throwing that out there. It's a slick little project for free. If you have a website or something, like I know, is it Dan that runs his website on a Raspberry Pi? Is that you, Dan? He's
No,
away.
not on a Raspberry Pi.
Okay,
Virtual
so I
private server.
thought somebody here ran something on a Pi, but particularly if you run something on a VPS, if you're only paying for 2 CPUs or something, particularly if you're running something on a resource constrained operation, these AI scraper bots can be. Um, they've brought down my Pawigio instance. They've brought down our Confluence at work, and our Confluence is like a 8-core, 32 gig of RAM VM. So Anubis is a pretty slick way to stick it up there. There are some downsides, but it's getting some more um, web firewall features. Like it can actually monitor the load of your server. And if your load average, you can set points where your load average gets over a certain amount, and it'll increase the difficulty of the challenge it's presenting to the end users, therefore throttling connections. So it's a pretty slick piece of software. I'm on Discord with a developer. I kick her like $5 a month or something. You get access to her Discord where you can talk to them. and 'cause I find it that useful. It's also decreases on bad actors. So if you've got somebody coming by looking for WordPress vulnerabilities or Drupal vulnerabilities, it kind of stops those bots too. But I could do a short kind of presentation on that because I find it very useful, especially in our if you're a hobbyist and a business can afford to buy Cloudflare or if you make enough money or throw more resources at the problem. But this is actually quite a clever solution for people who are um, trying to stop these things from bringing down their machines. FFmpeg uses it. The GNOME GitLab people use it on their GitLab instance. It's popping up all over on free open source projects who, for obvious reasons, don't want to pay Cloudflare or don't want to deal with Cloudflare being kind of proprietary. So it's open source and on GitHub and everything. But that's kind of all I got. Yeah.
I hope you will present this at the next meeting formally.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know if you want that to be September
Sure.
or October.
I can email the list. I can throw together. It probably wouldn't be more than 30 minutes because it's a pretty simple concept. You install there's a Docker image you can run if you run Docker or there's RPM and deb packages you can install, but it's pretty simple conceptually. And I also like she flipped the capitalist thing on the head because usually it's like, uh-oh, my site's getting overwhelmed. I've got to pay Cloudflare to protect it. And it doesn't impact the people scraping. It's just you're paying more bill. This, because it does a proof of work, if you're spawning up 500 scraper bots and you're hitting this thing, it's causing your scraper bots to try to do the proof of work math, which is on a client, it's not so bad. But if you've got 500 of those running on an Amazon EC2 instance trying to do that math, well, that gets to be an expensive bill. So instead of we'll say the victim in this, the person running the website having to fork over more money, the scrapers are having to, it's kind of making this more expensive for them. It'd be like charging spammers a penny an email or something. It would really make it unappealing. So
is this something analogous or to sort of a perpetual honeypot?
No, it will. So it has 3 states. It'll challenge your browser with some JavaScript more or less and go, run this computation, prove you're a real computer, prove you're a real browser. And while it's doing that, you'll get the kind of the wall screen of like it's thinking, and it takes it even on like a low end smartphone, it takes it a few seconds maybe to do that. And then it will either make a decision based on that. It will decide, okay, you successfully performed the calculation, you passed these sniff tests, we'll let you through to the Nginx server or the Pythons, whatever you've got protected by it, right? Or if you fail it, if the computation doesn't come back or takes too long or you're coming from a bad IP or something like that, it will just drop the connection and kick you out. So it's not like a honeypot where it's like a tar pit where it'll tangle people out. It's just more of a sniff check where it's more like a web application firewall than a honeypot. So it's pretty brilliant. And I could do a quick presentation on it. Like I said, it's not complicated, so I wouldn't plan on it being the whole hour, Brent, but like maybe 30 minutes to talk about it and show how I have it installed.
Right. Well, we appreciate that, Lander.
Yeah.
Dan.
Okay. I don't have a lot, but I did want to make a comment about the AI. When AI first started, it was basically a search engine. And in my reckoning of it, now with AGI and ChatGPT and such, it's starting to get more intelligent, if you will, although some people don't like to use the word intelligence associated with AI, but I think we're going to eventually have to. Now I understand that Elon Musk has got Grok, which is another AI thing with AGI, which is pretty smart. And I've heard and read that got three different levels of AI. You've got AI, you got AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, and then there's something coming online pretty soon. If it's already here, but it's going to be developed and become mainstream probably in the next 5 to less than 10 years, called artificial superintelligence, ASI. It supposedly will be on your phone within the next decade. So you'll be able to carry this ASI along with you, and it is supposed to surpass human intelligence. So just to let you know where we're headed with AI, it's not decelerating, it's not leveling out, it's actually exponentially accelerating. So it's not going to go away. I use AI primarily for questions, for querying. I don't dialogue with it like some people do. There are people who dialogue with it, and I don't do that. But I do ask it quite a bit of questions, and when I'm doing research and other things. But that's all I want to say about AI before I move on. In the area of Linux, what I've done this month is I've continued my Casa OS build. And of course, I did the presentation that got stopped, and then I did a video. Don't know how many of you folks have watched it, but I have expanded my Casa OS now to up to like 14 Docker applications, 14 of which are touchable via the web, via the internet, and some of them are extremely helpful for me personally. And so I intend to keep Casa OS around. It's running on the Raspberry Pi, Pete, Raspberry Pi 5, and which is a 8 gig platform, SBC, and it's very robust. I mean, you would not notice that it was anything other than a standard computer just watching it operate. Okay. And it's not like the Raspberry Pi 3 or 4 even. It's the Raspberry Pi 5. And so I'm working on that, building on that. And then the latest thing I have started working on and taking some online tutorial video training on 22 videos. And I would be willing to present on this as well in the future. It doesn't have to be next month either, but sometime in the near future, because I'm still looking into it, is an application called Proxmox. And I don't know how many people have used it. Proxmox comes out of Austria. Developers developed that in Austria, and it's similar to VMware ESXi. It's an enterprise level platform for virtual environment. And Proxmox also allows you to do, I'm not that sure about VMware, what it does. All I know is it's associated with virtual environments. But what Proxmox does in addition to VMware potentially, in my understanding anyway, is that it uses KVM, which is a kernel level virtual machine management. And it also uses, that's a QEMU KVM. And it also uses something called LXC, which is a Linux containerization concept. And so Proxmox allows you to develop containers rather than virtual machines. And containers are a little bit different from virtual machines because they're more efficient and they don't use as many resources. And so you can have more containers running on a system, on a node, than you have virtual machines potentially. So what I have done and by the way, Proxmox is based on, it's an entirely open source application built in Debian 12. And there is a cost to it if you want the enterprise support. If you're running multi-nodes, especially if you're running Ceph or cluster FS and that kind of thing, you may want to get a subscription for the enterprise level updates and that kind of thing, which I'm actually looking into. But right now, in order to just play with it and see what it's all about, I do have it up and running. I have utilized my laptop, which is a 12 gigabyte RAM system, the pretty fast i7, I think it's a multi-core, quad-core CPU. I think it's got multi-threading, so it's got 8 cores. And so I have set up Proxmox on that and experimenting with it. I have Ubuntu Server 2404.2 LTS running on it in a virtual machine very well. You'd never know it was running on bare metal. It doesn't appear to be running in a virtual machine. I also have Debian 12 running on it simultaneously. I intend to have multiple VMs running, maybe containers as well. I only have one node. I don't have multi-nodes, but I would be willing to present on that, Brent, as well in the future, if that's something that somebody wants to look at. I will show you the cluster manager itself. This is, well, I'll have to share my screen. I don't know if I have time to do that, but this is Proxmox website. If you go to it, it's proxmox.com/en. It gives you an idea. Proxmox is more than just a virtual environment software platform. It's also a backup server and a mail gateway, but I don't use it for any of the other two. Rather than share the screen and go through that, I'll probably just wait to, if I'm allowed to do a presentation, and I'll do that and show you what it's all about. When you do install Proxmox, I will tell you that it has to be the only thing running on the machine. So I have it running on an SSD, NVMe M.2 card and drive, and so I had to wipe my laptop of Debian 12 and install Proxmox with Debian 12. And it's the best thing I ever did, I think, because I love it. Proxmox is the way to go, in my opinion, personal opinion. I have looked at VMware ESXi. I have used it in the enterprise very briefly. I didn't particularly care for it, but Proxmox is something I would love to use in the enterprise and would love to get an enterprise subscription for it. And so it's up to you, Brent. You know, if it's something you want me to present on, I will do that in the future. And that's basically all I got.
Yeah, let's plan on doing that. I mean, if Leander is ready for next month, we'll plan on that for October or other way around. It's
fine.
All good. Thanks, Dan. Let me just say my piece before we go. So I have several months ago, probably more than that now, I rebuilt my machine with a low latency Liquorix kernel. Built it for doing like music stuff. I've since kind of gotten distracted with more of like hardware stuff. Like speaking of Marketplace, I got that thing for free off of Marketplace, a Hammond organ, which is fun, but no one wants them because they're big and bulky and require maintenance. So they're easy. Like if you search organ on Facebook Marketplace, you'll find a dozen free organs of different makes. This I thought was one of the nicer ones. It works. It needs a little maintenance right now, but it does work. But yeah, I got away from the music stuff on the computer, but I opened up my DAW, which is Reaper, which is free but not open source site, or I don't believe. Well, it's not free. It's trialware, and I will ultimately pay for it. I just haven't gotten around to it. I opened that up and started doing something, and I was getting like tremendous latency. So I'm a bit irritated that it had been working so well when I first installed it, but something I have done to my system since has introduced some latency somewhere. So I don't know if it's the DAW itself or some other component, but I need to get back on that. One option is to rebuild because Debian 13 will be released in a matter of days. I do plan to install a new image at work to be like my standard Linux image, and I'll base that on Debian 13. We have interest now. We actually have sent some of our folks to training for Linux. So we have our systems team should be handling Linux administration and maintenance, but historically they've been a very Windows focused team. So it's basically just been Brent that does Linux maintenance. So one outstanding question is how to do patching in our enterprise environment. We do have just a handful of Linux machines, but it appears that as of late, there's been more vendors that have been like, okay, please install this on Linux XYZ, which was one of the problems we're encountering is trying to standardize. Like I standardized for my stuff on Debian when CentOS was no longer a viable solution. I don't regret that decision at all, but various vendors will come in and say you have to install this on a Red Hat Enterprise Linux environment, or you have to install this on Ubuntu. So then you end up with a diverse set of things. So one problem we have is our patching server does not support Debian. It doesn't support quite a few things. It supports I think it supports Red Hat Enterprise Linux derivative things and maybe Ubuntu. So there's a possibility of hacking together something that will work with Debian, but that's one option, is use what we have that and keep everything under one roof, or we could do a more scripted manual thing, or a dedicated Linux product. So we're thinking through how to do those things. I'll continue to be part of it for the foreseeable future, but we do at least have interest from the other team to manage the Linux servers as well as the Windows servers. We RAM is something that's been a big problem at work for me. I have a Dell laptop that runs Windows, and it was initially shipped to me with 16 gigs RAM, and I knew it wasn't just not having enough RAM, because 16 gigs RAM isn't terrible, but I would, if my machine was on for any length of period of time, I'd be low on physical RAM. It just would be consuming all my physical RAM. And it was offered to me when I mentioned this to our field services team, because I figured, okay, they're supposed to support me. I rarely do use them, but I figured, okay, I'll ask them what they can do to help. And they immediately offered to ship me more RAM. So I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do that, because why not? So I doubled the RAM to 32 gigs and found that my machine could be on for a little bit longer, but I would still ultimately run out of RAM. So it just seems like something has a memory leak or something. Um, and I don't have to be running anything special. But it's kind of, I'm not really identifying, because if you look at Task Manager, it doesn't really tell you what is truly consuming that RAM. But something is really holding on to it in some sort of way that is problematic. Um, Teams is a big memory hog. Chrome is a big memory hog. Outlook is a big memory hog. Sorry, not Chrome, Chromium, because it's Edge. So all those three things, which it just doesn't feel like your basic run-of-the-mill apps, browser, email, and communications, not even necessarily video communications. It doesn't feel like those things should be consuming 32 gigs of RAM on a computer. I'm not I don't operate like a power user. Pretty much everything I do for management is by remote controlling to a different machine, a jump server of some variety. So it's not like I mean, every once in a while I'll do something that cranks up a lot of data, like open a big uh, network dump or something, but that's rare. I'm just doing normal user stuff, and that seems to require 32 gigs in this day and age, which is just infuriating.
It's,
Hmm.
The other thing I would say, I don't know what your Windows team does as far as endpoint protection, but that like we have most of our machines are having to be higher spec, not because what the user doing is doing it, but it's the 6 antiviruses we have to run for cybersecurity insurance.
I'm my own worst enemy because I'm on the security team. So I'm the defender guy. I'm the web client, the web enforcement guy, and I've thought that it might be the browser plus our the thing that interfaces with the browser to enforce proxy and does some other things. Recently upgraded that, and that didn't seem to help. Yes, I since it was seemed to be something that was at least somewhat peculiar to me for a while there, I thought, okay, maybe it's, I trial a lot of things before they go, to other things, and that's certainly true right now. I have a application protection tool called Airlock that basically it's an application whitelisting tool. So maybe that's part of my problem. Um, yeah, testing things on myself isn't always the best solution, but I do it. Dan.
Yeah, I have a question, Brent. I haven't been involved in the enterprise security for many years in the Windows world. Is the Windows Defender still the go-to for that?
I would not do anything other than Windows Defender, other than have Malwarebytes hanging around just as a second opinion.
Okay.
I'm curious what other people do because I'm kind of stuck. We're very insular where I'm at. We tend to hire from within, so we don't get a lot of fresh blood and people saying, "Oh, in my last job I did this." It's people that grew up in our ecosystem say that they don't know anything different. They learn our tools, but they don't say, "Hey, how about this tool?" I do trust Defender as a primary antivirus, and we are using it in an enterprise sort of way, fully managed. We are not using the full XDR like the higher license
Right.
version of it, but we are using it uh, as our enterprise solution. I would love to know because there are certain use cases like new software. Like we need to have a process to centralize, because previously, once upon a time, everyone just downloaded software off the internet and used it and hoped their antivirus got the bad things. We want to make sure no software is installed other than from the approved repo of software. So how do you get from point A to point B? Someone has to be in charge of downloading that software, vetting that software, and then placing it on the repo. So for the people running it, downloading it to the repo, maybe running it in a sandbox, I would love to have more tools than just Defender to count on. It's like, I would like to have like a handful of tools to run against the new pieces of software before we decide, okay, this piece of software is fine, put it on the repo. And that I'm too much in my little Defender bubble to know what people are out there doing.
Yeah, there are network appliances that monitor your network and determine if somebody's attaching something to it too, and blocks it as well. So
We have we run Cisco AMP, and I think they're trying to get away from that. And there's most of it's cybersecurity insurance driven, and it's we've had the repo thing for years. The other part of it is visibility. Like if Kevin was here, I mean, he can see down to the exact web page in JavaScript any client machine is looking at any time at any time.
What software is used for that?
That's Cisco AMP. It logs everything. It's
Oh,
an
okay.
endpoint protection. It logs everything up to the cloud and
yeah,
whatnot. Don't do anything personal on your work machine ever.
Nope.
But and I even have a separate work VLAN here, but it's yeah, I would say uh, something like that. It really, you were probably gonna have to look at your cybersecurity insurance and see what they require. That's where most of this is driven from. And if you don't have cybersecurity insurance, you're probably going to need to get some, because like one day one ransomware attack could put your whole enterprise out of business.
Is
Kind of
that like a
thing.
Meraki appliance that is giving you a separate VLAN, or what's doing that?
For me, yeah, it's TP-Link Umada. I have a network a Podman container that runs their software, and it's um right now it's L2 based, so I have it down to ports, but I'm getting ready to implement FreeRadius and 802.1x on my home network. So by default, if you get on my wireless or on my, so like I now have two SSIDs, one for one VLAN for work and one for personal stuff. But what I want to, especially with the proliferation of Internet of Crap things, I want to have it to where a layer 3 network where everything is pinned through my firewall, and I have 802.1x where unless you're an if you get on and you sign on to my network with an 802.1x client, and you get access to the file server and all that stuff. But by default, if you just join the network or plug into a port, you just get nothing and shoved straight out to the internet. So
Yeah,
I
that's a
kind of
good
want to go.
idea.
Right now, it's more layer 2, so it depends on which port you plug into and which SSID you can join, which has an error-prone human element. But I want to make it more like, okay, unless you have this, we're not trusting the machine, we're trusting the person. And unless you have a credential, you're just going to get shut straight out to the internet and not talk to anything on the network. But that's going to take a little bit of tinkering around. And mine's probably overly complicated for what most people want. I think similar functionality, if you get like a home gamer router, one of the like Linksys or Asus or out of the box, most of them have kind of a similar idea to a layer 2, where it's a guest network where you've got your primary SSID, then you have like a guest SSID that just has a different subnet and everything and just goes straight to the internet. So, but I mainly just knowing what my work can see, and that's another reason why like I won't put work stuff on my phone, is like once you put in a Gmail account, like it gives them special rights on the phone where they can wipe your device and all this other stuff. Um knowing what they can see, I don't want like anything on my network accidentally talking to my work machine for any reason. So I'm hyper paranoid. But I put my money where my paranoia is. So anyway, it's part of it is due to like I've seen it happen in the past before, where like if you're working on something and you use any of your work resources, like it's become state property. We don't have the same protections as faculty do. So I tend to be very segmented on like my consulting and my other side work, just to make sure that like I don't like, oh, suddenly you made something that's valuable. Oh, that's ASU property now.
That's right.
So you have to be super, yeah, paranoid. So I make an extreme effort to keep all that as segmented as I possibly can. But yeah, I would, if you're looking for your home thing and you don't want to set up, I think TP-Link makes home routers too. Asus, Linksys, they probably all offer that guest network functionality.
I haven't.
Yeah, I used to do very much a combined work. I used to work on a Linux box that was my own box, and do everything through like Citrix. And at some point, I basically I was shipped a Windows machine, and I basically had to just realize that, okay, I need to eat the dog food, and I stopped doing that. And now I try to be, other than being a guinea pig, which I certainly am, I try to be the model end user. I am not an admin on my local machine. I do not install software other than, again, for the guinea pig purposes, for things that we ultimately plan to install elsewhere. I don't install custom software. I don't install special tools for myself beyond what a user would request for themselves. So I try to do everything as a normal user, because for one, that way I am a better test case as a normal user.
It's yeah. I would add to that on our end, you can't install, like, there is our Macs have been locked down for probably about a decade now, where they won't reboot from USB. It has to go through our recovery process, so you have to come in and have us do it. And the PCs are getting the Microsoft Intune product now, where they're going to be BIOS locked. You can't boot from an external device. Like, it's going to be a Windows box. You can't. That's it. I'm not sure what that means for we do have a Linux build for people who want it on campus, so I'm not sure what that's going to mean. With Windows, for Windows subsystem, Linux, the WSL thing that's around now and everything, I don't know that there is probably a good business use case. I could go on a long rant about that. We're a university. We're not supposed to have business use cases for things, but that's the way she goes now. We're a business. That, a lot of professors are probably going to howl about that. Well, not a lot, but some will, but that's just the way it is. Yeah.
Leander, they've locked it down so you can't boot from the network too?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty sophisticated. The Macs have been doing it for years, but the Macs have had more sophisticated firmware for years.
Yeah.
PCs are just kind of getting there in the last 5 or 6. But it's basically, you order a Dell laptop and it goes to it gets provisioned at Dell through Microsoft Azure's Intune thing. It gets locked down. We can remote brick it through the interface. We can set rules. I think you can make an exception to allow a certain machine to boot from a USB and install a new OS if you want. But yeah, it is basically complete and total control over the hardware. Yep. So short of, yeah, I mean, again, we're a university. Like, this is like, to me, should be a separate business side of the university, like the registrars and student accounts, where this kind of stuff happens. But then you've got the academic side, where they need more academic freedom. But we seem to be adhering everyone to the super corporate model. So,
well, you're running databases too, right? So
yeah, but I mean, that's all segmented and everything. And that would be, that would be an access control through the network or through the client, not really
separate LAN.
Yeah. So it's that's why we're transitioning to a layer 3 network at work too. So it's again, you'd have to have the Cisco client on your machine that would 802.1x, and it would have to it would do posture checking on the machine and all this stuff. So it's, again, I feel like we're pushing corporate modes of operation into an academic environment, but that's just the way universities work these days. There is, I have to be careful. I've been warned to be careful at what I say publicly about the school. I can't be too disparaging, because anyway, so that is what she is. So,
do you want this to be included in the video?
I don't think I've said anything too bad, but it's okay. If you take it out, I won't complain either.
No,
so
I mean, if you did, I
dealer's
would.
choice, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there are Brent, don't you work at a hospital? This is kind of concerning, to be honest.
What do you mean?
Like some of the that we're kind of ahead of you. Like,
no, I mean, hospitals are very legacy focused. Like,
okay.
They're very conservative, and we have a lot of stuff. We have a lot of budget for stuff. We're doing a lot of things, but we also have a lot of challenges where, there's a lot of what's the term?
Federal regulation.
Organizational, inertia. It takes a while for us to embrace certain things. But I mean, we are, in some ways, we're ahead of the game, and other ways we're very much behind. But when I compare ourselves to other healthcare organizations, especially ones that have had issues, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, oh my God, what were they thinking?
Okay.
I'm sure there are some niches where we are that, but mostly we're not.
Okay.
I would think that hospital systems with HIPAA and everything would be locked down like a snare drum.
Yeah, I was kind of having
It's
that
just not a lot of money. I mean, we're a relatively small not-for-profit organization. Yeah, there's just not a tremendous amount of money there. But that being said, I think they have been reasonably generous with our security budget. Usually, if we ask for things, we get them.
Yeah.
That's usually the way it works too. Is that the security boogeyman comes out. And once it was mandated we had to get cybersecurity insurance. They basically come through with a hammer and like tell us what we can and can't do, because it's like homeowners insurance. If they come out and look at your roof and say, well, you replace your roof or we're canceling your coverage, well, you're going to replace your roof. It doesn't matter if you think it's in good shape or not. And some of it, I kind of call it security theater. There's a saying that says there's a difference between security and compliance. Some of these tools, I think, fix some holes, but then introduce worse ones because they're a single point of failure. But it's
I refer to it as ticking a box. We
Yeah.
have certain things that we've had products that their entire existence just ticked a box. We could say we had them, but did they actually make us any more secure? No, not at all. That I think that's not nearly as true as it used to be. Most things we have now are effective, and we're perfectly willing to tell the people that we work with, the folks that manage our risk, no, we don't have this, and we don't get things to tick a box. We get things to solve problems. So our leadership is far better in that regard than it had been in the past.
Unfortunately, a lot of our decisions are made down in Raleigh and there are still very ticking a box things that happen. So yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's certainly is more than enough for one day. So it sounds like we are good for some presentations for the next couple months. We'll figure out which one's going to be in which month. But thanks all for joining. Any parting words before we go?
Thank you. Good discussion.
Yeah. Thanks all. Have a great day.
Okay.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Fair.